got Michael King. He's from our Inflow Technologies group. He's going to share with us some good information about SOLIDWORKS integration with SOLIDWORKS PDM. He also worked with one of our customers, so he's got some really good field experience. He's got some really good information to share. With that being said, Mike, I'm going to turn it over to you, and thank you very much.
All right. Hey, guys. Everybody can join here, ready to get going with this. Let's go ahead and jump right in. As Bob said, my name is Michael King, PLM PDM consultant for Inflow. We're part of the CATI family. I work out of the Boulder, Colorado office. One of the pictures here is something I enjoy doing on the weekend is going and taking photos in the Rocky Mountains. So a little bit about me. As far as SOLIDWORKS, I've been using SOLIDWORKS for a little over 9 years, as well as been a global PDM admin for previous life for a little over 6 years, as well as a CAD administrator. Certified PDM professional administrator, and I've also included my email address if you would like to get a hold of me outside of the presentation to ask a question about it. I'd be more than happy to talk to you about it. Like Bob said, I have some few war stories from previous life in the field, so this is definitely something that I've used in a professional environment outside of the reseller world. So today we're going to have a pretty quick agenda. We're going to jump right into taking a look at this. I'm going to warn you right now, I'm not a PowerPoint heavy person. I do have a little bit of PowerPoint, and then we're going to be doing mostly live clicks in a demo to show some of these settings inside of the SOLIDWORKS software. So by all means, this is not going to be a death by PDF. PowerPoint. Sorry. So we're going to take a look at the PDM add-in that is used in SOLIDWORKS. It's going to be our integration to PDM from SOLIDWORKS. We are going to cover some very basic topics up into some more advanced topics later in the presentation. So there should be something for everybody for today. So getting started here, take a look at the add-in, how to enable it in case it gets disabled or is missing from your machine. We'll go over using the add-in, what the options are right from inside of SOLIDWORKS. We'll also answer what are all these icons for? Why do I see so many icons? What are the combination of the icons? We'll get into some customization to hopefully show you some tips and tricks on how to make your SOLIDWORKS experience with PDM a little bit better. The very first thing is we're assuming that you already have PDM installed on the server. We already have it configured, that sort of thing. So if you don't have it installed, that's a different WebEx. This one's not going to cover how to install and configure PDM in any way. It's really just the SOLIDWORKS side of it. So during the client install, we do want to make sure one thing, though, is if you are a SOLIDWORKS user, you want to make sure you get those CAD editor licenses when we're doing the install for the client. When we check the SOLIDWORKS PDM CAD editor license, we get the option to have a SOLIDWORKS add-in installed with our client. And that's what we're going to be dealing with right now. So when we get into SOLIDWORKS, on the right-hand side on our task pane, we have our tabs for our task pane. We should have the PDM icon. We call it the blueberry, the PDM blueberry, the PDM icon. We should have that little blue icon in our task pane. If we don't, it's very simple to enable after the install. We go up into our SOLIDWORKS in the top of our screen. And the gear for options, if we click the arrow next to that, we drop down and we have an add-ins button or a selection. When we click that, our add-ins open. And we scroll down and find where our add-in is listed. And for PDM Standard or Pro, it's listed as the same, it's just SOLIDWORKS PDM. And we want to make sure that we have both the boxes checked to the left and to the right. The box on the left is for current session. It activates it for the session of SOLIDWORKS that's open. The box on the right ensures that the add-in is launched every time we open SOLIDWORKS until we uncheck that box. Don't have that, make sure we enable that. So inside of SOLIDWORKS, I already have it popped open here. As you can see on the right-hand screen, on the right hand of my screen, I do not have the PDM icon. So I'm going to go to Options, Add-ins, find my SOLIDWORKS, activate it for this session, as well as activate it for every startup after this. And now I get my little task pane on the right-hand side of my window. If I I don't have that option, I don't have the client installed correctly, and I didn't install with the correct license or add the SOLIDWORKS add-in. Next thing, so new for 2019 with PDM. When we normally open SOLIDWORKS, we start on this home screen on the task pane, right? That's where the default opens up to. But in 2019, we can now change that. So if we look up here to the top, we see another option gear. When I change this, when I open this up, I have the option to start as default on my task pane to select which tab is open by default. So in our case, because we're PDM users inside of SOLIDWORKS, I'm going to go ahead and activate my SOLIDWORKS PDM by default to open when I open SOLIDWORKS. So now that'll pop up every time, and I don't have to go from my resources page down to my PDM add-in. Right. So without any files open from the vault, this add-in is pretty bland. Can't really do anything besides run a search, really. I do have a file queued up over here on the side that we are going to open from the vault. Let me pull this over here. I'm going to open up our demo piece right inside of our vault from Explorer. And we're going to be looking at a piece of the mountain scooter assembly. And I'm going to just go ahead and open this into SOLIDWORKS. And with my PDM then activated, when I open the assembly, it's going to be blank until the assembly is finally loaded. When the assembly becomes loaded and fully loaded into SOLIDWORKS, the add-in is going to actually show me a bunch of information, and that's really going to be what we're going to talk about right now for this first portion. All right, so because I'm a SOLIDWORKS user and a PDM user, I like to have my task pane for PDM in the open position when possible, so I like to pin mine open. I don't always have to have it this wide, but I usually shrink mine down a little bit. This does have you lose a little bit of the real estate in your graphics window. So at this point, it might be a good time to say, "Hey, boss, I need a larger monitor." You know, Bob McGoy from CATI said I need a really big monitor, so I'll put it on him here. So maybe time to get a bigger monitor to have some graphics display area if you're using this file. We do recommend leaving this open, especially when we're in an environment. We have multiple users. A lot of collaboration going on. That'll save you some time and save you some frustration. So the whole point of this is to be able to use this add-in right from SOLIDWORKS while we are in our SOLIDWORKS session without leaving. So we do quite a few things from this add-in. That's what we're going to be going over. The very first thing I'd like to talk about is the toolbar. We have a bunch of tools on the toolbar. Make sure I have everything whole length there. We have some tools that we can use to make our life a little bit easier while we're in SOLIDWORKS. And here's the legend that we've kind of created for what these icons do. We can get latest, get a historical version, check in, check out. We can change the state of a checked-in file right from SOLIDWORKS. There's no need to actually go to the review. We can edit the data card by clicking on the properties icon. Do the where used report by from the SOLIDWORKS, browse to a folder. So I actually take a file from our tree and show us in context of the folder structure where that file resides in the vault structure. If we're in an assembly, we can select a file in our task pane and have it zoomed to the selection in the graphics pane. Additionally, we can open the file in another SOLIDWORKS session. We can edit a component in an assembly. Select that right from the PDM add-in. We can also run a search right from inside SOLIDWORKS. All right. Right from in here, and the options that are available to me for that file. So I have a lot of these files checked out. This one's actually checked in, so I have the option to check it out. You can always check a file in. That's obviously the basic stuff that everybody generally knows how to do. On a file with a bunch of history, actually come in and swap that file out for an older version, maybe a working version or an actual release. I want to see what that file, that release is doing in my current build, I could go back and get, revision J, and right from SolidWorks, grab the file and have it be my revision J, so my version 33 of 55. Didn't have to leave SolidWorks, I can do it all from right in here. On a file that's checked in, I have the ability to change state, so from state to state through a transition. The transitions that are available to me, if it's checked in, I can run that from right there. Additionally, one thing that I'd like to show off here is the where used. So right from inside of SolidWorks, we can run a where used report. We get a list of all the different versions and where they're being used in which assemblies or drawings or different references in there. A lot of people don't know, but on this you can actually toggle through a couple other panes. This is something that you can actually get to the preview window and the data card from this where used report as well, if you're into that way of doing it. And this is select in the Windows Explorer. If I click on a file and hit select in Windows Explorer, it'll drive automatically where that file is listed in context of the folder structure. So you have a very in-depth folder structure where you find yourself folder diving more than you want. You can actually do this to get to find the files in context of your vault view very quickly. Another one here is if I select this zoomed in selection while I'm in an assembly, it gives me, it highlights and it zooms where that part is being used. If I want to open the part in another SolidWorks session, I can simply come here and open this direct edit on that part in a separate SolidWorks session. I still have it checked out just like I did on the other. Okay. Rebuild here. All right, so if we come in here and look, if I'm working on an assembly, I can select what file I want to edit in the assembly, so I could select this and edit the file, and then we can do that. So here's a newer one. We also have a history icon now. Before we're going to explore to see the file history, we can actually click on this now to get the history of the file right in our PDM add-in in SolidWorks. So it gives us a nice little history of the file. This file happens to have a ton of history because I modify it quite a bit for demos and things. We can see any of those pieces and get that version. Additionally, I can run a search right from the tool. So this is going to allow me to search on a file and open it right from the search tool into my SolidWorks session. Additionally, this is if I'm using PDM Pro, I can create custom searches if I'm digging into a certain project. So if I have a project that I'm constantly going into, I can create a search that automatically looks into that folder and search into my custom searches. And give it a name like Mike's Search. All right, so that is really the add-in as far as here's all the things that we could do right from SolidWorks without leaving SolidWorks. And that's obviously one of the nice things is when we're in SolidWorks, we try to keep users in SolidWorks so they don't have to leave and go hunt down different applications and open things outside of SolidWorks. So with PDM, we can do a lot of this right from the session we're working on. However, sometimes we like to see a lot of different icons here, a lot of different information that's being thrown at us. We're going to talk about some customization of this here in a little bit to get the most out of this add-in. But first, we're going to talk about these icons. So when I get into my add-in, I see a ton of icons. And right now, I have equal signs and pencils and green clock faces and red clock faces. Then I look over here at the quick child info, and I have red, green, equals, pencil, which, okay, what's going on? So the next thing we want to just quickly touch on is using understanding what the icons mean. So one of the questions we get a lot is, hey, where do I find that little bit about what the icons actually stand for? So to get to that information, we go to Tools, SolidWorks PDM, Options, View Settings, and then click on the View Settings tab. At the bottom of the tab, we have a legend. We'll zoom in on that. that dictates and kind of tells us what the icons mean. This is going to tell us what they stand for, what the icons are about. So kind of a practice that I did, especially when we were onboarding new people that were using our PDM system. I had this saved in my onboarding material. We had a new employee that was joining engineering or design, and I would give them this little legend and stick that on their desk so that when they were using the vaults for the first couple of weeks, they weren't questioning what the icons were. They had the ability to understand what they were without asking every 5 minutes. So every file in the task table has status. So these icons are related to status. The colors are related to status. Once a file is modified, we get a pencil appearing. And you can actually get that pencil to appear just by opening a file if you're referencing it in a subassembly that has an outdated reference. Once the file is modified, the pencil appears. Once the file is saved, the green icon, the green clockwise clock face appears. Once the file is checked in, the equal icon appears. So this is kind of what these icons stand for and what they mean. And I'm not going to go over every one of these, but here are some combinations that we see, which is another thing that we recommend giving to people as they start to use SOLIDWORKS for the first time, or even a refresher a year after they're using it. This is going to talk about different icons and what they mean in context when you're working on a file in SOLIDWORKS. The one that always trips people up is when the file has the equal to and the pencil. How can the file be edited if it's equal to the vault? Really what that means is that the file in the session is equal to the vault, but there's been a change of the file that has not been saved in SOLIDWORKS yet. Green clock face. So these combinations can help with understanding when we're working on SOLIDWORKS files, because we might get one icon or we might get 3 or 4. So, all right, just to show you the add-ins here, or the icons. So to get to the icons and what they mean, you don't have to keep track of a PDF or anything like that. We just go to PDF Tools, SOLIDWORKS, PDM, Options, View Settings, and here is our information about the icons and what they stand for. To give you an idea here, we have a file at the bottom where I've forced to get an older version. When I force to get an older version, of course it tells me that my file, my local file is older than what's in the vault, and it's been modified because I did a little bit of a rebuild there. You have the ability to come in right from here and say, give me the latest. Give me the latest of the part and the drawing. And now I'm equal to what's in the vault. Everything's good to go. Again, this one has sorry about that. Looks like that we have files that are have the green arrow. That means that as soon as we check those files in, save those and check those in, that those will become equal to the vault because I've made a change to that file. Go ahead and say check that in. And I'm still referencing an older version of the file through here. That's one of those warnings that's going to pop up on us. But we'll move on from that right now. It happens to be in the second version of this assembly with an extended piece here. This shows us that we can actually reference an older version, but we do have the equal to what's in the vault. What's really happening is I have, inside of this assembly, I have a file that's referencing an older version that I could clean up and have that get taken care of. All right, so the next thing we want to talk about here is really the customization part of this. So a lot of this stuff on this screen can be customized. It can be done to change it based on how we work or the things we like to see. I, for one, I prefer to see the colors more than the icons. So customize the icon. So take a look at it here. So when we get into customizing the add-in, we take a look at the options. This is how we get to our options again. We're going to be taking a look at the server setting tab. We're going to break this server settings into 3 sections and go ahead and label those. The first 2 sections are really based for the current user of the system. These actually get saved to our HKey current user registry settings. So when the changes are made to these, it goes to the registry. So when we do make changes here, we know that this is for the current user of the system. Anything done here is only going to affect the user. The top section is really our prompts and our warnings. This is where we can dictate if we get our warning messages for modifying a checked-in file, or prompts, check out the file on open if it's only mode. We're going to show you that those can be turned off to save if we don't want to see those warnings every time, those pesky warnings. Additionally, we have the option to show or hide the data card when we add a new file from SOLIDWORKS. We have the ability to activate the custom properties, the @ tab page by default. And then again, the @ tab is what links to our custom properties, and then the other tabs would be configuration specific. The middle section it talks about how we handle automatic updates in the tree and the add-in for PDM here. So after a component window has been activated, after a component has been added, deleted or renamed, a component's been reloaded, suppressed or unsuppressed, checked in. So if we're dealing with smaller assemblies, this isn't too much of a concern. So we're dealing with our very large assemblies and we want to get a little bit more performance out of SOLIDWORKS. We can have the option to uncheck some of these to save some SOLIDWORKS resources and to save some time on assemblies that have 50, 60,000 parts. The bottom section, which is kind of a different beast here, so this is really strictly for SOLIDWORKS PDM Professional, and this has to deal with automatic part numbering based on serial numbers. So what happens here is this section is an admin section only, and this is actually what this does is actually it's a Vault global setting. So if I log in as the admin in my SOLIDWORKS and I change the serial number option for my part, it's going to change it for my entire Vault and all my users. I can control whether a part, assembly, or a drawing gets a separate serial number. I can't go to a user or a specific group and assign them a serial number. It's going to be an entire Vault function. You do have to be logged in as admin, otherwise this is grayed out, and this is Vault specific. So this would be changeable based on our Vault dropdown. We have had quite a few questions about that in the past, where admins change it on one machine and think they're changing it for their manufacturer engineers to use the serial number, and then their MEs or their engineers. And what happens is they keep changing it, and it keeps updating that setting in their database and never truly does what they want. So that is a global setting for all of PDM to do automatic part numbering. It will suggest a part number for you when you save the file into the Vault. When we look at the View Settings page, this is where we can actually do some customizations for adding columns, enabling or disabling icons, and also changing background colors for status updates. So this is where we can actually get into some of the customization for that flyout, so we can take advantage of what's being shown to us in our SOLIDWORKS session. This is where we're going to be spending a few minutes looking at this inside of SOLIDWORKS here. So let me go ahead and get it right into that. This is also user specific, so it's the user on the machine. When we look at, we'll jump into the view settings and we'll backtrack to the server settings here. Go back to my options, my view settings, and in the view settings I can actually dictate which columns are being shown. So the columns on this side and my task add-in, what's being shown in those columns and what the header says and calls that. We call it a caption. So I can select any variable from my PDM system to display in my SOLIDWORKS session. So I'll go ahead and do length right now. I don't know if I have any, but we'll add this. And I can control what this says. I can call overall length, whatever we want to call this here. And when I add this, it adds it to the end of my column set. Again, this is scrollable, so if I have a smaller column set, I can still scroll over. I don't have to use all my real estate here. I can scroll through that. Additionally, there are there's other pieces we can do here. To my view settings, we have the option to do the SOLIDWORKS last save. So for upgrading, we can do the SOLIDWORKS last saved with, and we can add that and see which files our version has been saved for the last version. This here, more real estate on the side here. So all these have been updated from 2019 for this presentation. So you can add that information in there very quickly. So again, the next thing we want to talk about is actually the options to show and hide icons and maybe a combination of icons and colors. I actually prefer to do everything based on color. So what mine used to look like is I would give myself colors to kind of give me a quick understanding of what's going on with the file. Didn't really care about the equal sign. That meant I was all good. But if I look at a file in here, I could see that if it's been edited, I have a light blue color real quick, and that just worked a little bit better for me. Actually, I would make my red stand out a little bit more because I was picky. Go and change that. But when I had a file that was referencing an older version, I would get my nice bright red at the bottom, so I knew something was referencing an older version. If I had made changes to a file and saved it, we get a nice neon green to know that I could now check that file in if need be. So, if you don't like the icons, you have the ability to remove those and just go off of colors or nothing at all. So if we come into our settings, say get rid of all the icons, we can do that. We can get rid of all the colors and just make this a very clean interface and just base it off of understanding when we work with the version numbers. That's really what we're paying attention to in our workflows, who has it checked in or out. You have that option. That's definitely a thing. When we go to that server tab in the options, this is where, again, this is broken into those three sections. These top two are based on of the current user, and the bottom one is an overall vault setting, which I can change based on whichever vault I'm logged into with the admin accounts. And I can select a serial number to drive my automatic part numbering. One thing that I do want to show you here, this is kind of a little thing that we like to show, is if you don't like this piece on the right-hand side, since we do have this split window on the left-hand side, we actually move our SOLIDWORKS add-in to the other side of the screen. So some people don't like to have this flyout open. I have the option now with this split window. I have my SOLIDWORKS at the top, my PDM at the top, sorry, and my SOLIDWORKS feature tree at the bottom, or vice versa. You can definitely change that around. It doesn't have to live in the task pane any longer. We can change where that's located. So that's just a little bit of the customization there for where we put our add-in for PDM. We put it in the task pane or on the feature manager. All right, so that's about the time limit for the customization part of this. I wanted to say thank you guys for participating. And if you have any other questions or you have the chance to take a look at our inflow blog, we have a lot of different articles on there that the techs write, that we write and come up with so that you can have information to read, especially admins for PDM. I get on there and take advantage on that. And the side, check out our blog for SOLIDWORKS articles, especially right now with all the what's new in SOLIDWORKS 2019. So if you have the chance, take a look at the blog there. So thank you guys for checking this out. Bob, did you have anything you wanted to say before we end the session?
No, Mike, I'm I'm just here monitoring the chat. I think we got most of the questions answered. I kind of filtered some through to you as they came up, and you're able to interject those pretty easily with like the question about can we do the SOLIDWORKS last saved as?
Sure. Good question.
That's a good question. I thought it'd be a great time to slide that in. But I haven't seen any other questions. But if you do have any questions, I'll be happy to filter those to whoever wants to take them. My email address, I'm going to put in the chat for everybody to get a hold of. It's just bobm@chgi.com. So feel free to, if I don't have an answer, I'll get you an answer. And we'd like to thank you for participating with this webcast. We have the end of today and the rest of this week, and then we have all of next week. So we've got at least another 14 webcasts. So we got some good information still coming for you, and hopefully we'll talk to you guys soon.